Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
Hello everyone, I promised if I ever come across another entitled Karen, I would post. So here we are. So I just started my shift and I was feeling good. I had a good dinner, all of my good partner were on shift and I was jamming out to my favorite Backstreet Boys track in my car. Then it happens. Dispatch sends out a call about a disturbance at a local coffee shop in my area, so I take the call and zoom in over. I pull up and there she is, Karen. I take one step out of my patrol car and she basically runs up to me. Now Karen was 42 years old with that really short haircut and I did notice that she had a big red mark on her cheek. "Ma'am, is everything alright?" I asked her. In a most dramatic tone she said, "Thank goodness you're here. I was just attacked by a crazy woman in the coffee shop." "Okay, where is she?" Karen points to a woman in the shop and I tell her to wait outside. She doesn't. And I request an additional deputy to come out. I walk inside and see a young woman who is very angry and very pregnant. I would have to say like 7 months maybe. She's sitting at a table on her phone and I approached her and asked her what happened. So I'm in here getting a coffee just minding my own business when that lady points at Karen, walks up to me and she starts touching my belly. I asked her to stop but she keeps touching me. Then when the barista sets my coffee down for me, he takes it off the counter, hands it back to the barista and says it's illegal to sell coffee to a pregnant woman. Then she starts touching my belly again saying that I'm a bad mom. I ask her to leave me alone and stop touching me and she then tells me that she's a mother and that's okay. She got really rough touching my belly and I got scared. When I tried to walk away she wouldn't stop. So I slapped her to get her to leave me alone. I looked at Karen who was standing by the door rolling her eyes as the pregnant woman was telling her story. My partner shows up and walks up to me. Now my partner is a noble crab taker, short southern corn-fed mud-raised woman. I asked her to hold it down out here. I talked to the manager and several employees behind the bar, and they all confirmed what the pregnant woman said, and the manager even brought me back to the office and showed me the security footage. All of it confirms the pregnant woman's story. On the camera it looked like Karen was getting aggressive with the pregnant woman because the lady tried to walk away. But Karen wouldn't let her stomach go. I walk out to the pregnant woman. "Ma'am, you want to press charges?" I asked the pregnant lady. "Yes, please." So I walk over to Karen. "Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to turn around and place your hands behind your back." "What?" "You're under arrest." Side note, in my state you can be arrested for intentional and unlawful touching of someone. Since Karen was both aggressive and kept touching this pregnant lady, she broke the law. She then started screaming, "You can't arrest me! It's not illegal to touch a pregnant woman! You should arrest the employees of this place! They were giving coffee to a pregnant woman, endangering the child!" "Ma'am, no, you cannot touch someone without their permission, pregnant or not. Second, there's no law that says a pregnant woman cannot drink coffee, so please turn around and place your hands behind your back." "No, I am not getting arrested. I'm leaving. I have to get home to my children." Karen turns to leave the store and my partner steps in front of her with a try-me look on her face. Karen stops dead in her tracks, and I took that moment, snatched her hands, and put on a pair of cuffs. Karen loses it. She starts trying to get away and screams. She's flailing so hard that she knocks off my body camera and I have to pick her up and carry her to my patrol car. When I get there, my partner opens the door but Karen actually puts her feet on panel to stop me from putting her in. My partner rolls her eyes, grabs her taser and zaps her leg. Karen shrieks and finally gets in the car. My partner, the saint that she is, says she will do the paperwork while I take Karen to jail. So the whole ride I'm getting told how I need to watch my back, how she knows the sheriff, how I'm going to lose my job and how I have no idea who she is. I get her to jail and she starts going off about her rights. She needs to talk to a lawyer and she needs to be released right now. The jail staff was looking at me with that, "What nightmare did you bring us there?" So I did my report and realized I still have 9 hours on shift. Luckily, the rest of the night was not that bad. Hi there. I've got a little story that happened to me a while back, and I thought it would be perfect for the malicious compliance sub. You see, I'm an overnight security guard and my shift runs from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I work for a company that provides security services to various establishments like hotels, apartment complexes, and clubs. But let me tell you about the one particular site that had some seriously lousy parking issues. This site was a fancy luxury hotel with a tiny parking garage. It was supposed to cater to all the employees and guests, but it fell far short of the demand. The parking garage only had 2 floors and maybe 100 parking spots in total. To make matters worse, they decided that a quarter of this already inadequate space would be reserved for employees only. And here is the kicker. You needed a parking permit to use that employee section, and they were strict about it. If your car didn't have a permit, it was getting towed. You got one warning, marked with a pride sticker on your car, and then it was bye-bye car. The garage also served as valet parking for non-employees, and the only other option was to fork out money for street parking. Now the problem here was that I have 3 cars of my own, not to mention my significant other's vehicle. So you can imagine my dilemma. Each parking permit listed the year, make, model, color, and license plate number of the car it was assigned to. But my boss, bless his heart, told me that the permits were transferable between cars, though they might come and ask why the permit didn't match the vehicle. He even advised me on what to say if they questioned me. Well, Boss X told me that the permits are transferable between cars, and this is the car I drove today. I decided to push the envelope a bit. First off, I tried to get permits for all of my cars to save time, but much to my dismay, they shot me down, saying every person only gets 1 permit. Now, here's where the fun part comes in. They emphasized that they had to check every time the permit didn't match, whether they knew the car or not. And this is where the malicious compliance began. On the very day I received my parking permit, I began driving a different car to work every single day. One day it would be one of my 3 cars, then my significant others, then my mom's car, and even her boyfriend's car. If it had wheels and an engine, it was fair game. Soon enough, management started to notice and get quite upset about my parking shenanigans. But I remained steadfast in my response, as instructed by my boss. Well, my boss said they are transferable, and this is the car I drove here today. I repeated this phrase like a broken record day after day, with a sly grin on my face. After time passed, the frustration on their end grew. They couldn't understand how I managed to drive so many different cars, day in and day out. But I continued to provide the same answer without missing a beat. It was as if I had a magical parking permit that worked on every vehicle I touched. Around a month and a half into this delightful little game, I walked into my office one day, and there it was. A stack of parking permits, one for each car I had ever driven to work. Each permit had the year, make, model, color, and tag number of the corresponding vehicle. I couldn't help but chuckle to myself as I realized that my persistence had paid off. It was a small victory, but it felt like a monumental win. Work 0, me 1. I had successfully pinned the parking rules to my advantage, and I could drive to work with any of my cars without a second thought. It just goes to show that sometimes a little bit of malicious compliance can make life a whole lot easier. And in this case, it made my parking nightmares disappear. Hey everyone, I've got a bit of a dilemma on my hands and I need your opinions to help me figure it out. Here is the story. My father passed away when I was just 4 years old, leaving me and my little brother Sam, who was 2 at the time, without a dad. It was a tough situation for my mom, but she's a strong woman. 2 years later, she met Jack, who would eventually become my stepfather. Let me tell you, Jack is an amazing man. Fast forward a bit, and when I was 10, my mom and Jack tied the knot. It was a big day for all of us, and it marked the start of a new chapter in our lives. Jack stepped into the role of our father figure and he did an incredible job. He made sure we never felt like we were missing out on anything, and he was always there for us, no matter what. He taught us how to navigate life's challenges and assured us that we could talk to him about anything. Now, I'm 29 years old and I recently got married to the love of my life. The wedding was beautiful and the honeymoon was a dream come true, but when I returned home, something seemed off with my mom and Sam. They weren't exactly cold towards me, but it was clear that something was bothering them. Naturally, I had to find out what was going on, so I asked them about it. After a bit of convincing, they finally opened up and confessed that they were a bit disappointed in me because I didn't ask Jack to walk me down the aisle. You see, where I come from, it's not a big tradition for someone to walk the bride down the aisle. Most people do it, but some don't. So I went down the aisle on my own, which was entirely normal in our culture. I was genuinely surprised when my mom and Sam told me about their disappointment. They explained that a few months before the wedding, Jack had confided in them that he would have really liked to walk me down the aisle. However, he didn't want to push the request on me, so he kept quiet about it. They told me that both of them had been dropping hints left and right trying to get me to ask him. And now that they mentioned it, I did recall a few instances where they had hinted at it. But I honestly didn't catch on at the time. Feeling like a complete and utter jerk, I decided to talk to Jack about it. I wanted to clear the air and apologize if I had unintentionally hurt him. When I brought it up, he just shrugged it off, saying he wasn't upset about it at all. He assured me that he was happy that I had the wedding exactly the way I wanted it. He even complimented me, calling me a beautiful bride, and we shared a warm hug. However, despite his reassurances, I still can't shake off this feeling that I might have let him down or made him feel excluded on one of the most significant days of my life. So here is where I need your help. Am I the jerk for not asking Jack to walk me down the aisle, even though I had no idea he wanted to do it until after the wedding? I mean, I never intended to hurt anyone's feeling, especially not Jack's, and he's been an incredible stepfather and has done so much for me and Sam. But at the same time, I can't change the past. I had no way of knowing he wanted to walk me down the aisle. So folks of Reddit, please give me your honest opinions. Am I the jerk in this situation? And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, nobody is a jerk here. There is a lot of nuance to the situation, but I don't read that you actively tried to hurt him. Would it have been a nice gesture? Yeah, probably. Another commenter adds, I understand where he's coming from and how his feelings are probably hurt. Maybe make a point to take him out for a special date, just the two of you, to let him know how special he is to you. Nobody is a jerk in this situation. I get why he's upset, but you can't know something no one will tell you. A third commenter goes with, it's your choice. I think it would have been a nice gesture, to be sure. It sounds like Jack is a great father to you. Nobody is a jerk here in my opinion. I would just sit down with him again and tell him how much he means to you. I'm sure Jack will get over it, but if I was in his shoes, I'd be hurt. If he were gone tomorrow, what would you regret not saying to him? As an aside, having just been married myself, you can't win it all. There is always someone with hurt feelings who wasn't invited or in the wedding party or whatever. If it wasn't Jack, it would have been something else. Give yourself some grace. So just before my senior year in high school, I turned 18 and bought a car with my saved up years of babysitting money. I'd have liked one sooner, but my mother absolutely refused. At 18, in my big act of teenage rebellion, I went out and bought one. A couple of months later, Auntie Jerk suddenly left her job from several states away and moved in with us, without her car. It cost less if she waited 6 months until spring to get it shipped. Something about snowbird travel patterns. She was cheap and a user as well as a jerk. As a result, I was expected to share my recently acquired car with Auntie Jerk until hers arrived. This seemed deeply unfair, but nonetheless it was agreed upon that she could use it for appointments and job interviews since I could take the school bus. I needed to be warned in advance because my bus stop was the second one of the route. It left a lot earlier than I needed to, if driving directly, and I liked sleeping. You may be wondering by now what this has to do with an alarm clock. Auntie Jerk is one of those people who likes to rile people up, then mock them for getting mad. She's always got a complaint, a harsh word, and is feuding with somebody over something. Once she moved in with us, her complaint was my alarm clock. My room shared a wall with hers. The alarm was waking her mooching, unemployed broke ass up every morning. And that got her so mad. Couldn't I just go to bed earlier so I didn't need an alarm clock? The morning schedule at our house went something like this. 5:30 in the morning, my workaholic mother leaves for the office. 5:45, my alarm goes off if taking the bus to school. 6:15, I leave if taking the bus to school, and 6:45, I leave if driving to school. 1/2 never, Auntie Jerk's unemployed tushy needs to be anywhere. Auntie Jerk approached my workaholic mother about the horrific inconvenience of my using an alarm clock. Her solution was that my mother should wake me up every day at 5:30 before leaving. My mother told her to try earplugs to work it out between us. My mother was massively non-confrontational and wanted no part of Auntie Jerk dispute. Auntie Jerk started sneaking into my room to unplug my clock after I fell asleep. I'm a hard sleeper, so she pulled this off a few times. I had a good number of tardies before I figured out it wasn't a new cat who initially got blamed. I woke up to see her standing over my bed one night. Creepy. I screamed like a banshee, waking the whole house. She claimed she was sleepwalking and my mother let her get away with that lame excuse. I endeavored to solve the problem myself with some super glue. Not the brightest move I made. The house got sold with a bonus electric blue alarm clock, and Auntie Jerk started turning the alarm off instead of unplugging it, so I started sleeping with my alarm clock tucked between my pillow. No way Auntie Jerk could do anything to it without waking me up now. She was pissed at having not gotten her way and never let anything go over. Auntie Jerk's next move was to get up when the alarm went off and race into the only bathroom with a shower. It was closer to her room than mine, so she always beat me there. She'd stash magazines in there to sit on a commode reading until right around 6:20. This was after the school bus has left, but still before I needed to leave driving directly. Once I was taking a very rushed shower and she'd steal my keys and take my cars, wherever the hell the unemployed go to drive around all day. She claimed that I just wasn't paying attention when she said she needed a car. She wasn't telling me. When my mother wasn't around, she made snide remarks that if she was woken up, she had just as much right to the bathroom as I did, and that I could solve this problem by not waking her up. In addition to this, she would take my car evenings and weekends, always right before I had babysitting gigs. It never returned with more than fumes in the gas tank. She had to call roadside assistant twice for running out of gas because she guessed wrong on how far she could get on fumes. Needless to say, I was mad, also massively inconvenienced, and a lot poorer, let me say. I had to beg friends for last-minute rides or take a cab. She continued to blame me, and my mother stayed out of it. We got into a cat-and-mouse game with my keys where I eventually kept them on me at all times, even in the shower. This was an old car some years back. No electronic keys were harmed. The keys came in the shower with me because a counter wasn't enough to stop her from pulling the bathroom lock, pocket door trivial, and coming in while I was showering to take them. Again, creepy. This eventually resulted in her asking in advance to borrow my car for a job interview that probably wasn't. She went to the key shop and got my car keys copied. The next day, my keys safely back in my position, she pulled the shower stunt again. She did it a lot even when she wouldn't take my car. Well, Auntie Jerk was a jerk. I headed out to the driveway, keys in hand, and my car was not there. I legit thought she'd hot-wired it until I got home, and it showed no signs of tampering. I am not much for poking the bear, but it was time to have this out. Auntie Jerk quite smugly admitted to copying the key, called me a selfish witch who didn't know how to share, and many other unfortunate things I don't remember exactly. She wasn't giving it back. What was I going to do? I warned her that the car was mine and she did not have permission to use it ever again. This was a bridge too far for me. There will be consequences, and she laughed in my face. The next morning, my car was not in the driveway. I expected this. My best friend's dad was a cop. I was practically a fixture in his house for a decade, and he was the closest thing I had to a father figure due to my own deadbeat dad. So I gave him a call, utterly distraught that the car I'd worked so hard for had been stolen from my driveway. He was very sympathetic. Did I mention my car had low jack? It was actually a very nice car, back when it was new anyway. We did all the reporting and whatever it takes for the cops to find it with low jack. By mid-afternoon, they had found it in the parking lot of an outlet mall. I don't know what the full details of the encounter were, as I've heard multiple versions of this part of the story over the years. He had some kind of witch tizzy on them upon being accused of theft, including a tussle with an officer. It ended in charges of grand theft auto, resisting arrest, assaulting an officer, and some kind of license-related thing because she'd never switched it to her new state of residence. Don't throw a witch tizzy at a cop. They don't like it much. As this all took some time, she didn't get a rain that day. As her unemployed broke ass had the horrid credits and little money, she couldn't make bail. As I deleted her answering machine message begging my mother to come bail her out, my workaholic mother didn't even notice she was gone for almost a week. Once my mom did notice, I explained that my car had been stolen and I called the cops. I was handling the situation myself like she suggested. The look of dawn and horror was amazing. Then she shrugged and went back to avoiding all the confrontation. Auntie Jerk served 2 weeks in county lockup until she took a plea deal. I suspect they slow-walked her paperwork a bit. What happened after was glorious revenge. Auntie Jerk's remaining savings were used up on all the fines and court fees. So she finally got around to shipping her car and engaging in a job hunt. One problem, she was previously a teacher. She'd yet to get her certification in her new state. Now, she had a rap sheet and was unable to pass a background check. Whoops. Time for a new career as a telemarketer. Auntie Jerk did not bother much after that. I learned years later that she only went after kids hard, and I had proved enough of an adult she realized there was consequences for her actions. We spent the next few months ignoring each other before I headed to college. And that's how a dispute over an alarm clock ended Auntie Jerk's teaching career. It had to answer a few repeated questions. What's up with your mother? Well, mental illness. She was not a bad person. She simply had almost no capacity to deal with conflict and retreated into her work as a coping mechanism. With time and understanding, I am sympathetic to her role. She has since passed away. Why didn't you call the cops sooner? I had never dealt with anybody so lacking boundaries like Auntie Jerk before. I genuinely thought there was a limit, and I just had to handle things until we got there in the name of family harmony. It was also supposed to be temporary. I had college coming up quickly and she was supposed to find a job/apartment. So it was very time-bound. It's the nuclear option to call the cops on a family member, and a very scary thing to contemplate at 18 years old. I also wasn't sure it would work, given she could claim I was confused about permission, and the chances my mother would back me up were close to zero. Once I still had my keys in hand and no car in the driveway, and that was a game changer in my eyes. Can we get more of an epilogue? There is not a lot to say. I went no contact with Auntie Jerk after leaving for college, and between her present stint and my departure she ignored me and I returned the favor. I found out later that she only seriously picks on kids. I proved myself an adult who could deliver consequences, and now I spend holidays with my husband's lovely family and visit the stable family members at other times. Somehow I have hair washing to do every reunion. Oops, she's never gone back to teaching, thank God.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.